Hey, Jason Fladlien here. I'm going to give you a simple framework to start a sales webinar that maybe is the easiest for you to understand and implement. So therefore, until you become a pro, probably the most effective opening that you can do. And it goes like this. High level, it's by the end of this webinar, you'll be able to do X. That's step one. Step two is, and it doesn't matter if, excuse. And then step three, here's why I'm bold enough to make such claims. So these are the only three steps that you have to achieve in your introduction to really have a hot introduction that grabs them by the throats, makes them say, oh my God, this ain't just your regular mom's webinar here. Something real's happening. Something incredible might take place. And I'm riveted. I'm interested. Let's go. So let me break down the three steps for you. The first one is by the end of this webinar, you'll be able to do X. So specific measurable outcomes are preferable to general, possible, fuzzy things that may happen. And so a lot of my webinars, I like to put them in concrete terms. I don't know if you ever heard of this thing called SMART goals, but they stand for something. I don't know what it is, but they're like, hey, if you set your own goals in life, and goal setting is pretty important, probably should be doing that, is they have to be specific, they have to be measurable, they have to, whatever the A stands for, but they have to be concrete too. Some third party has to look over your shoulder and be able to check a yes or no box. Did you accomplish this or not? And so these are the types of webinars that I try to design. I don't do them so much now because I can get away with more abstraction because I have these other techniques that I've developed over a period of time. But for the first several years that I was creating a webinar, I said, I want to have a specific outcome. I want to teach to a specific outcome. And that outcome is something that my audience wants, they desperately desire, but they think is near impossible for them to achieve. And then I'm going to blow their minds away because I'm going to show them that they actually can achieve it. So the first frame of the webinar is essentially, by the end of this webinar, you're going to be able to do X, Y, Z. By the end of this webinar, you'll be able to achieve some big result without some major specific setback that usually occurs in a certain amount of time. Even if ... So those are some fill in the blanks for you. So make it specific, make it exciting so people are like, damn, I don't think he can do it, but I'm going to watch and see if he actually can. That's the sweet spot. Now, what's good about these webinars when you do develop frames like this is it makes your content portion of your webinar really easy. You just got to satisfy that. The agenda is set. By the end of this webinar, you're going to be able to do X. And it doesn't mean that they've actually done it. It just means that they now know that the next time they sit down, they have a plan that they can execute on that's superior to whatever plan that they're executing on right now. Now, here's the beautiful part of step 2 of this introduction. And it doesn't matter if ... And then you list their biggest excuses. Typically, it's 3 to 5, and that's it. You don't even have to solve them. You just have to bring them up. So I developed this theory early on in my webinar career that I couldn't put something in your brain without you kicking it out if I didn't first deal with your excuse. So it's kind of like, a calculator that already has information inside of it. You can't do math on it. You have to clear the calculator first. Or if you have a chalkboard and it's already filled up with a whole bunch of stuff, you can't write over top of that stuff and have it legible. You have to erase the chalkboard first and then write the thing out. And so to me, I never felt like I could really impact somebody and have them be open to my idea if they had all these excuses still rolling in their head that would kick it out. So I would teach them something, they say, yeah, but. I teach them something else, they say, yeah, but. I teach them something, yeah, but. And then it'd be like, yeah, the yeah, but, they're way to a no. So you bring up this big thing. By the end of this webinar, you'll be able to achieve X. And you say, and it doesn't matter if you're a beginner. It doesn't matter if you're on a shoestring budget. It doesn't matter if you have poor self-esteem and you don't even think that you are able to achieve anything successful in life, whatever the thing is, right? You want to list them out. So we have an Amazon webinar that we're the marketing partners for. And I bring it up in the beginning where I say, I'm going to show you this system that allow you to be successful on Amazon, even if you don't know how to pick successful products and you can't create your own products. Even if you have the inability to get good reviews for products and you don't know where to start to even get a review for a product. Even if you don't know how to create a good Amazon product details page. In fact, by the end of this webinar, I'm going to show you how to do all of this without your own products. without guessing whether these products are going to sell or not because they already sell, without you ever having to get a single review because the reviews are already there, and without you having to do anything from the product images to the bullet points to the description on the listing. And they're like, okay. Because if I just said, here's a new way to make money on Amazon, they'd say, but I've tried this before and it didn't work. And I tried that before and it didn't work. So now I'm looking at you very suspiciously. So you bring up the outcome without getting into the details of it, and then you take away the excuses. You don't overcome the excuses at this point in time. And as a side note, we never actually overcome. That implies effort. We destroy excuses. We let them fall upon themselves. We melt them away. But that's different language for a different day. We give them the big outcome, and then we say, even if, or it doesn't matter if, excuse 1, excuse 2, excuse 3, excuse 4, excuse 5. Merely bringing them up in the introduction is good enough. Now, in your content session, you should systematically destroy each of those objections. So you should demonstrate how the products already sell without you touching them. You should demonstrate that these are already high-quality products based on how you look at the reviews and know that they're good, and so on and so forth. But we got to bring up their excuses. So I have another webinar that teaches how to create information products. And one of the biggest excuses is people think it takes too long. So I show them in the content how it's very short, how you can create these in one setting. People think you need to be an expert on the topic in order to create an information product, and you don't need to be an expert at all. You don't even need to know anything about the topic. You need to know what makes good information products, and then you can find and leverage experts and build a structure to create those products. Another big objection is people say, I don't know how to sell an information product. Great. I show them how they don't need to know how to sell it, because we start with these low-ticket information products that are impulsive, that don't need sophisticated sales processes. They say they have an objection where, hey, all this information is free. Why would anybody buy anything these days? And I show them how that's not true. But in the introduction, I don't show them any of that stuff. I just bring it up. I do it in a true-false quiz, by the way. It's kind of an interesting mechanism, too cute for you if you're just starting out. But I say true or false, and then I have them tell me the answer, and then everything is an objection. Like, true or false, with all this free information that's out there, people are spending less money on information products than ever. And the answer to that is false. In fact, the opposite is true. They're spending twice as much. True or false, it takes a lot of effort and time and many, many months to create an information product for it to be successful. The answer to that is false. In fact, some of the best information products that I've ever created have taken 2 hours or less, et cetera, et cetera. We're destroying the limitations up front, or at the very least, we're putting them on the table. So we're acknowledging that, yes, you're afraid of these things, and I'm aware that you're afraid of them. So when I say you can achieve X, I mean you could achieve X even if you believe you have these limitations, or even if you actually do have these limitations. And so they say, I'm listening. I'm going to watch the rest of this webinar. See, a big mistake people have in their webinars is they do too much convincing and too little persuading. I never want to convince you of any damn thing if I'm trying to sell you something. That's too hard, and it doesn't work. You try to convince somebody of something, and they dig in further into what they already believe. So what's the difference between convincing and persuading? So I'm not trying to convince you that you should drop these excuses. I'm just bringing them up so you're aware of them, and you know I'm aware of them. And then I'm going to show you a system that makes these things obsolete, and I'm not trying to sell you that this is 100% true that I can do this. I'm trying to open your mind enough to say, is it possible? And that's where persuasion can occur. Where I'm not pushing you, say it will be possible, it will be possible. I'm allowing yourself to sell yourself. Could it be possible? I'm going to take a look. I don't think it's possible, but what if it is possible? Let me see if it is. And that's persuasion. That's not convincing. So merely bringing them up in the beginning is good enough. And then the third part of this introduction is, here's why I may be so bold as to make such a claim, which is in and of itself valuable, because if you make a bold claim in the very beginning of the webinar and you do not acknowledge it's bold, something doesn't feel right there. But if you're reading the prospect's mind, you're gaining this rapport because you're like, yeah, it is bold. It's totally bold. But here's why I'm justified in making such a bold claim. And now we can show your qualifications, your achievements, your results, your insights, your experience. Now we can bring some evidence to the table. What happened recently, results of other people that you've worked with, or just trends that are happening in the industry, connections you have of how you've been able to be in these rooms that are usually closed-door rooms that they're not going to be part of, resources you have access to, et cetera, et cetera. This is where we present the evidence, not necessarily of why their excuses are excuses, or not necessarily why you can show the specific mechanism of how to do something, the evidence of who you are to make such a claim. And this is a sneaky way of exerting your expertise. The general way of doing it on a webinar is here's who I am and here's why you should listen to me. And that's not bad, it's sufficient. But when you sound like other webinars, you're guaranteed to put a cap on the possibility of the outcome of that webinar because you look too much like other people's webinars. And so people start treating you like other people's webinars. And most webinars get regular results, and I want to get irregular results in the positive. I want to get the best results possible, so I don't want to look and feel like other people's webinars, which is a problem because I teach all this stuff. And so I look like other people's webinars because they learned it from me. So I'm constantly innovating. But this is a way we can exert a here's who I am and why you should listen to me without outright saying it that way. And now you are contextualizing the portion where you talk about how great you are and how amazing you are, which otherwise can come across as braggadocious or just feel plain weird. Now it's relevant why you have to bring up your credentials and your expertise within that framework, right? And then after you do that introduction, it sets up the content beautifully. That's where you just show the steps to get the results. The big result that you claim, you show the steps or the criteria in order to do that thing. And then while you're showing those steps, you're killing the objections along the way. And it's a very efficient, very quick, very fast way to grab somebody from the beginning of the intro, get them excited, pull them in, and have them have an open enough mind to truly evaluate whether that offer makes sense to invest in or not. 3 steps again in closing. By the end, you can do X. And it doesn't matter if ... and here's why I'm bold enough to make such claims. Try that on. Let me know how that works for you. I'll see you in the next video.